Ancient engineers built computers and steam engines 2,000 years ago. Their secrets vanished, leaving behind only cryptic blueprints and rusted fragments. This is the story of how we are rebuilding their lost machines, a journey where modern science meets historical detective work. By the end of this exploration, you will see the ancient world not as a primitive past, but as a landscape of staggering technological genius. We will uncover how a lump of corroded bronze became a working model of the cosmos, and why a simple clay pot might have been the world's first battery. What single piece of ancient technology would you most want to see brought back to life? These faded inscriptions and philosophical texts are the only maps we have to a lost world of engineering. An ancient blueprint was rarely a simple set of instructions. It could be a poem describing the motion of the stars, a bas-relief on a temple wall showing a complex pulley system, or a set of geometrical theorems that secretly outlined the principles of a machine. The brilliant inventor Hero of Alexandria left behind books filled with detailed descriptions and diagrams for fantastic devices, from automatic temple doors to a steam-powered engine he called an Aeolipile. Yet these records are like recipes with missing ingredients. They often lack the precise measurements, the exact metal alloys, or the specific assembly sequences that a modern engineer would demand. A single phrase like a rod of sufficient length presents a monumental puzzle. What was sufficient, strong enough to not bend under stress, long enough to reach a specific gear? The original builder knew, but that practical knowledge died with them. Rebuilding these machines forces us to become detectives, not just engineers. We must read between the lines of poetry, understand the religious significance of a temple diagram, and grasp the limitations of ancient materials. It is a process of filling in the vast gaps with a deep understanding of the culture that created them. Only by first learning to read these cryptic maps can we hope to journey back and reconstruct our first great machine from the sands of time. From a lump of corroded bronze and wood pulled from the seafloor, a ghost began to emerge. The Antikythera Mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck over a century ago, was initially a perplexing artifact. It looked like a rock that had been fused with metal, its true nature completely hidden by time and seawater. Only decades later, when researchers used X-rays to peer inside, did they see the stunning truth. There, preserved within the calcified lump, was an intricate assembly of more than 30 finely crafted bronze gears, a complex machine of a sophistication no one believed possible for its time. This was not a simple tool. It was a mechanical universe in a box, a device that could calculate the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets, predict eclipses, and even track the cycle of the Olympic Games. How could a civilization we associate with marble statues and triremes produce what amounts to the world's first analog computer? The answer lay in the painstaking work of reverse engineering. The original machine was a single, coherent system, but it was recovered as 82 separate fragments. It was a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle where most of the pieces were missing, warped, or chemically transformed. Teams of experts had to work together, using advanced imaging to read inscriptions worn away to near invisibility, and creating digital models to test how the gears might have meshed. They were not just rebuilding a machine, they were decoding its logic, figuring out the astronomical theories that its creator had translated into bronze and clockwork. The reconstructions they built proved the mechanism was a precise mechanical calendar, a demonstration of Hellenistic engineering that rivals the intellectual achievements of the Renaissance. This single device shatters our timeline of technological progress. It forces us to accept that complex computational machinery existed over 2,000 years ago. The successful rebirth of the Antikythera mechanism from a corroded ghost into a working model gives us both a method and a profound hope. It proves that with the right tools and a collaborative spirit, we can coax other ancient wonders back to life, turning the cryptic blueprints of the past into spinning, clicking, tangible reality once more. Archimedes, the legendary mind who defended Syracuse with his great war machines, may have also harnessed the power of steam for a weapon. Centuries after his death, Leonardo da Vinci sketched a design he attributed to the ancient master, a cannon that used a sudden burst of steam to fire a projectile. The concept seems deceptively simple. A bronze tube is heated until it is searing hot. A small amount of water is introduced into a sealed chamber, instantly flashing into a jet of high-pressure steam that hurls a stone ball from the barrel. But the blueprint from Leonardo is just that, a sketch. It lacks the critical details a builder needs. What was the exact shape and thickness of the pressure vessel to prevent a catastrophic explosion? How was the water injected so quickly and sealed so perfectly that the steam had nowhere to go but out the barrel? These were the life and death questions facing modern reconstructors. They had to become metallurgists calculating the strength of ancient bronze alloys. They had to become physicists modeling the expansion of steam in a fraction of a second. When a team finally built a replica based on their best interpretations, the result was both terrifying and brilliant. With a deafening roar and a great cloud of vapor, their reconstruction launched its projectile with formidable force, proving the principle was not only sound but potent. This was not just a toy, it was a genuine piece of ballistic technology, demonstrating that the fundamental concept of steam-powered propulsion was understood nearly 2 millennia before the steam train. The successful rebirth of Archimedes' steam cannon does more than validate a legend. It blurs the line between myth and tangible history, forcing us to wonder what other brilliant ideas were lost, tested only in secret and then forgotten. Yet from this exploration of ancient weaponry, we find ourselves drawn to a machine designed not for war, but for pure wonder and celebration. While the steam cannon was a weapon of war, another Greek inventor was creating a machine of pure, elegant wonder. In the great library of Alexandria, Hero described a device that seems almost magical in its simplicity. He called it an Aeolipile. Picture a hollow metal sphere suspended between two pipes that feed it steam. Two more bent tubes jut from its sides like arms pointing in opposite directions. When a fire heats the water in the sphere below, the steam rushes into the sphere and escapes at high speed through these angled tubes. The force of the escaping steam acts like a thruster, causing the entire sphere to spin faster and faster, a whirling globe of bronze and vapor. It is a breathtakingly direct conversion of heat into motion. Modern engineers who have built replicas watch in awe as it works exactly as Hero described, a perfect demonstration of Newton's third law of motion, every action having an equal and opposite reaction. A principle that would not be formally defined for another 1800 years. Yet for all its brilliance, the Aeolipile was not connected to a grindstone, a pump, or a mill. It spun, and that was all. It was a temple wonder, a philosophical toy to demonstrate the power of nature and the cleverness of its creator. This reveals a profound difference between the ancient and modern minds. For inventors like Hero, the point was not necessarily utility or industrial profit. The goal was understanding, a celebration of knowledge for its own sake. The machine worked, and that was the triumph. Its purpose was to inspire awe and to probe the fundamental principles of the world. This playful spirit stands in stark contrast to our next machine, a device born not from wonder, but from a desperate, universal human need. A corroded bronze gear or a rusted iron blade pulled from the earth carries a truth that no written description can match. These physical artifacts are the tangible blueprints, the hard evidence that grounds our reconstructions in reality. While a text like Heroes might describe a machine's function, an actual artifact shows us its form, its material, its wear patterns, and the very fingerprints of its maker. The discovery of the Antikythera Mechanism was a revolution not because of a newly found scroll, but because a lump of corroded bronze was lifted from the seafloor, containing within it a complex gear train that no one had ever imagined. Similarly, the unearthing of Roman surgical tools tells a detailed story of ancient medicine. A delicate bronze scalpel or a complex forceps is not just an object. Its design reveals the procedures it was meant for, and the wear on its handle speaks of the countless lives it may have touched. The context of the find is everything. Where was it discovered? Was it in a workshop, a tomb, or a shipwreck? The Antikythera Mechanism was found alongside statues and coins, suggesting it was a luxury item for a wealthy, educated patron, not just a tool for a lone astronomer. Even more telling, the discovery of specialized metalworking files near the wreck site gave archaeologists a vital clue. These were the very tools used to cut the mechanism's microscopic teeth, directly linking the abstract design to the physical act of its creation. This is why the work of an archaeologist is so painstaking. Every fragment must be meticulously documented, preserved, and analyzed, because a single, overlooked sliver of metal or a peculiar stain in the soil can be the key that unlocks the entire system. Yet these precious material clues are almost always incomplete. They are the surviving fragments of a much larger whole, often representing less than half of the original machine. To understand the complete picture, to hear the full story these silent objects cannot tell, we must turn to the words they left behind. But what happens when the machine itself has vanished, leaving only words as our guide? The written records left by engineers like Vitruvius, Philo of Byzantium, and Ctesibius are priceless, but they are not the step-by-step assembly manuals we are used to today. Imagine trying to build a modern car engine using only a poem and a few philosophical musings about motion. This is the challenge historians face. These ancient texts are filled with ambiguous terms and assume a shared knowledge of craft that has been extinct for centuries. A single, seemingly straightforward phrase, such as a wheel of moderate size, can launch a decade of debate. What was moderate? Was it the diameter, the thickness, the weight? The original audience knew, but we are left guessing. Translators must become linguistic detectives, untangling words that have been copied and recopied for generations, each scribe potentially introducing new errors or interpretations. A perfect example is Vitruvius's description of a Roman water-lifting machine called the tympanum. His text alone was not enough to reveal how it worked. Scholars had to cross-reference his words with other fragmentary accounts and compare them to archaeological finds of similar devices. They formed a hypothesis, built a model, and then watched to see if it functioned as the text claimed. This process of iterative testing, where the written word provides a skeletal framework that physical reconstruction must flesh out, is how we breathe life into machines that left no physical trace. It is a delicate dance between the library and the workshop, where a misinterpreted verb or a mistranslated noun can mean the difference between a functioning marvel and a pile of inert lumber. Without this painstaking literary detective work, entire categories of ancient technology would remain mere phantoms in the historical record, ideas without form. And sometimes the most profound ideas are found not in grand machines, but in the simplest of objects. The true test of any reconstruction is not on the drawing board, but in the forge and the workshop. Ancient machines were built with the materials and tools of their time, a reality that presents a monumental hurdle for any modern engineer attempting to recreate them. They did not have access to uniform, high-grade steel or computer-guided precision lathes. A reconstruction that aims for authenticity must therefore rely on period-appropriate substances, materials like wrought iron, bronze, wood, and leather. This requirement forces us to do more than just build. It demands that we become apprentices in forgotten crafts. To recreate the Antikythera Mechanism, for instance, experts had to master the precise art of sand-casting bronze gears. This is a delicate, unforgiving process. A single bubble in the mold, a slight miscalculation in the cooling metal, and an entire gear with its dozens of tiny, precisely angled teeth is ruined. The leather for a blacksmith's bellows is not the processed material we use today. It must be tanned using ancient methods to achieve the right combination of flexibility and durability. The success of an entire machine can hinge on these seemingly minor material properties. A complex gear train that spins freely with modern ball bearings might grind to a halt when fitted with a reconstructed wooden bearing, simply because the friction is too great. This hands-on, material-focused approach does more than just produce a working model. It forges a direct, tangible connection to the ancient artisan's world. You feel the resistance of the bronze as you file a gear tooth. You smell the charcoal and hot metal, and you develop a profound respect for the incredible skill required to build such precise devices with such limited resources. This deep focus on materiality, on the very stuff of creation, inevitably draws our attention to the instruments that shaped them. The final, perfect gear for an ancient machine did not emerge from a block of bronze by magic. It was shaped by a tool held in a skilled hand, a tool we almost never find preserved. To resurrect the great machines of antiquity, we must first perform a deeper act of reconstruction. We must rebuild the very tools that built them. This is a puzzle within a puzzle. The evidence for these tools is often ghostly. It is the microscopic chatter left by a file on the edge of a recovered gear. It is the faint depiction of a bow drill on a tomb painting. It is the rare, miraculous discovery of a complete metalworker's kit, its iron blades fused together by rust but its purpose still clear. Each of these clues is a piece of a larger picture, the picture of the ancient workshop. Recreating a Roman bow drill is not a simple matter of copying a museum piece. It is an exercise in understanding physics and human endurance. You must select the right wood for the frame, shape the bone or stone cap that holds the drill bit, and spin the tether with a rhythm that maintains constant pressure and speed. The moment you try to bore a hole in a piece of oak with your replica, you are confronted with the sheer physicality of ancient craft. Your arms ache, your focus narrows, and you gain an immediate, visceral appreciation for the artisan who did this every day. This meta-reconstruction, building the tools to build the machines, demystifies the entire process. It proves that these technological marvels were not the product of alien knowledge or lost super science. They were the result of refined skill passed down from master to apprentice and the intelligent application of simple, well-made tools. The limitations of these tools directly shaped the machines themselves. An engineer designing the Antikythera Mechanism knew his gear cutter could only produce teeth of a certain fineness and strength. That constraint was baked into the initial design, a negotiation between theoretical perfection and practical possibility. By holding a recreated file and feeling it bite into bronze, we are not just learning how a gear was made, we are understanding why the machine was designed the way it was. We are feeling the constraints that guided a genius's hand 2,000 years ago, connecting with the tangible reality of creation itself. A machine's true purpose is often hidden in the culture that birthed it. We might look at a whirling bronze sphere powered by steam and see an inefficient engine, but its Greek inventor saw a divine demonstration of nature's hidden forces. This fundamental difference in perspective is the greatest challenge for any modern reconstructor. It is not enough to figure out how a machine worked. We must also understand why it was built and what it meant to the people who used it. Take the legendary south-pointing chariot from ancient China. On a technical level, it was a marvel of differential gearing, a complex cart that used a series of interlocking wheels to ensure a central figure always pointed south, no matter which way the vehicle turned. But its primary role was not navigation. It was a powerful symbol of imperial authority and cosmic order. In the Chinese worldview, the emperor ruled with a celestial mandate, and this machine, which seemingly defied chaos to constantly orient itself, was a physical representation of that perfect, unerring harmony. A reconstructor who only focuses on the gear ratios might build a perfectly functional compass, but they would miss its soul. They would not understand why such a complex mechanism was mounted on a ceremonial carriage instead of a simple hand-held device. The complexity was the point. It was meant to be seen to inspire awe and reinforce a philosophical and political idea. This cultural layer transforms a technical puzzle into a human story. A device that seems pointless or overly elaborate to our modern, efficiency-obsessed eyes might have been a perfect success in its own time, fulfilling a sacred duty or illustrating a profound philosophical concept. When we rebuild these machines with this deeper awareness, we are not just reassembling gears and levers. We are reconstructing a worldview. This understanding becomes especially critical when we turn our attention to the machines that sustain daily life for entire populations, the technologies of water, bread, and community. The Roman watermill was not a philosophical toy. It was the industrial heart of an empire, a machine built for the hard, practical work of feeding millions. While the brilliant gadgets of Alexandria were wonders for the few, the watermill was technology for the masses. The blueprint for such a machine was not found in a scroll, but stamped across the landscape itself. At places like Barbegal in southern France, the earth still bears the ghostly imprint of a factory that was ancient 2,000 years ago. Here, archaeologists found the foundations of not one, but 16 individual water wheels, arranged in 2 parallel rows cascading down a steep hillside. This was not a simple mill by a stream. It was a monumental complex, a powerhouse of flour production that could have supplied bread for the entire city of Arles, a population of thousands. Rebuilding such a machine from its stone footprints is a monumental task of reverse engineering. You must first design the water wheel itself. Was it an undershot wheel, turned by the current flowing beneath it, or an overshot wheel, where water poured from above delivered the greater power of its falling weight? The choice dictates the entire structure. Then comes the gearing, the wooden teeth that must take the slow, powerful rotation of the wheel and translate it into the blinding speed needed to grind grain between heavy millstones. This transfer of power is a delicate dance of physics. The gears must be strong enough to not shatter under the immense torque, yet precisely carved to mesh without jamming. Finally, you must master the water itself with a system of sluice gates and wooden channels, controlling the flow with the turn of a lever to start or stop the entire operation. When modern teams have completed these reconstructions, the result is a revelation. The wheel turns with a deep, groaning authority, the gears engage with a solid, rhythmic clunk, and the millstones spin with a terrifying, efficient speed. Flour pours out in a continuous, pale river. This was not just a machine, It was a system, a perfect marriage of natural power and human engineering designed for one purpose: scale. This shift from wonder to utility marks a critical point in our story. The water mill was technology in the direct service of empire, feeding its vast cities and its relentless legions. It represents the moment when engineering ambition turned from demonstrating principles to building the very infrastructure of civilization. And where there is an empire to feed and defend, the same ingenuity is soon turned to a darker, more destructive purpose. While the water mill fed the empire, another machine was designed to tear its ships apart. The Great Siege of Syracuse pitted the legendary intellect of Archimedes against the overwhelming naval power of Rome. According to ancient historians, his most fearsome weapon was a monstrous claw. Imagine a Roman quinquereme, a massive warship, rowing confidently towards the city walls. From a hidden timber structure on the battlements, a long wooden boom swings out. A heavy iron grappling hook drops, sinking into the ship's hull. Then, through some unseen mechanism, the entire vessel is wrenched upwards, lifted partially from the water by a terrifying, invisible force. The boom pivots, and the ship is dashed against the rocks or capsized into the sea. The historical accounts are vivid, but they read like myth. They give us the drama, the effect, but none of the technical details. How could a machine possibly generate enough force to lift a ship weighing many tons? Reconstructors became detectives of physics. They proposed a system based on the simplest and most powerful of ancient tools, the lever. The claw itself would be at the end of a long wooden beam, acting as the lever's effort arm. Inside the city walls, a massive counterweight, likely a container filled with stones, would provide the force. The trick was the pulley system. A complex arrangement of ropes and blocks would have been used to multiply the pulling power of the operators, allowing a small team of men to control the descent and ascent of the colossal hook. For a television documentary, a team of engineers and historians built a full-scale replica based on this principle. Their design was a symphony of wood, rope, and gravity. When put to the test against a mock-up of a Roman ship, the result was startling. The claw engaged, the counterweight dropped, and the boom lifted the ship's prow clean out of the water with a groan of straining timber. It was not just possible, it was devastatingly effective. The physics worked perfectly. This does not prove that Archimedes ever built such a device, but it proves he could have. The reconstruction transforms a legendary tale into a credible historical event, a testament to an engineer applying pure principles to a problem of survival. It forces us to see the siege not just as a military conflict, but as a battle of wits where one man's understanding of leverage could defy an entire fleet. This thin line between legend and tangible machine leads us from the chaos of war to a different kind of challenge, the precise and orderly world of measurement. The relentless gears of war and industry gave way to a quieter, more methodical machine. For an empire built on roads and taxes, the simple act of measuring distance was a matter of supreme importance. How could a Roman surveyor ensure that every mile of his famous arrow-straight road was exactly 1,000 paces? The answer lies in a device described by the engineer Vitruvius, a cart-mounted odometer of elegant mechanical ingenuity. Picture a standard wagon, its wheel rotation harnessed for a new purpose. With every turn, a pin on the axle engaged a large horizontal gear. This primary gear did not turn quickly. Its role was to collect rotations, hundreds of them, through a precisely calculated series of smaller gears. The motion was slowed and translated, much like the intricate gearing inside a clock. The final gear in this sequence turned just once for every Roman mile, a distance of roughly 4,860 feet. At that precise moment, a lever tripped and a pebble dropped from a hopper into a metal box with a satisfying clink. At the end of a day's journey, the surveyor simply counted the pebbles to know the exact distance traveled. It was an automated, mechanical tally clerk. Modern engineers who have built this device from Vitruvius's description find that it works with remarkable accuracy. The genius of the Roman Odometer was not that it was a wonder for the elite, but that it was a tool for administration. Its clicking gears and falling stones were the sound of an empire organizing itself, mapping its world with a new mechanical precision for the practical necessities of trade, logistics, and taxation. This drive for measurement, for quantifying the world, could not stop at distance. The same mechanical thinking that carefully counted the turns of a wagon wheel would soon be directed at a far more elusive quarry, the steady, unstoppable flow of time itself. The relentless click of the Roman odometer, counting each mile with mechanical precision, was a testament to a deeper truth. These machines were not born from random tinkering. They were the children of mathematics, physical expressions of abstract geometry and ratio. The Greeks, in particular, saw the universe as a system governed by number and form, and they built their inventions to mirror this perfect order. Look closely at the gear teeth of the Antikythera mechanism. Each tiny triangular tooth is not a rough guess. Its precise angle and shape are the result of sophisticated geometrical calculations designed to mesh perfectly with its neighbor to transfer motion without slipping or jamming. A single tooth cut to the wrong angle would throw off the entire cosmic calculation, turning a precise predictor of eclipses into a useless lump of bronze. The same mathematical mind was at work in the war machines of Archimedes. His legendary levers and pulleys were not just strong arms, they were equations made of wood and rope. He understood that the length of a lever arm multiplied the force applied to it, a principle he could express in pure numbers long before it was used to lift a ship from the sea. This is the critical discovery for any modern reconstructor. You can have all the right materials and follow every descriptive word in an ancient text, but the machine will remain inert, a collection of parts, unless you unlock the mathematical secret at its heart. The machine only whirs to life when the correct ratio between gears is found, when the precise point of balance on a lever is calculated, when the geometry of a water screw's spiral is perfectly replicated. This reveals that the blueprints we have been deciphering were far more than empirical recipes passed down from craftsman to craftsman. They were the practical application of deep theoretical knowledge. The machine was the answer to a mathematical question, a philosophical concept given solid, working form. For the ancients, building a device that could track the wandering planets was not just a technical challenge. It was a way to prove, in bronze and ivory, that the cosmos itself operated on a divine and knowable geometry. The perfect geometry of cosmic motion could not be captured by mathematics alone. It demanded a machine. In the 1st century before the Common Era, the Roman philosopher Cicero recorded a breathtaking account of a device built by Archimedes, a bronze sphere that replicated the movements of the heavens. This was an orrery, a model of the solar system where turning a handle made the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets travel across the sky with an uncanny mechanical grace. Cicero's description is our only blueprint, a written ghost of a machine that has never been found. He tells us it showed the moon rising and setting, and the planets moving at their different speeds, sometimes even backwards, just as they do in the true night sky. This is the monumental challenge for any modern reconstructor. It is not enough to make a simple model with rings and balls. To be authentic, the machine must replicate the strange, looping dances of the planets, their retrograde motion, which requires an astonishingly sophisticated system of gears. How do you translate the irregular, elliptical paths of celestial bodies into the perfectly regular, circular motion of a bronze gear train? The answer lies in a concept known as the Greek theory of epicycles. Hellenistic astronomers believed each planet moved in a small circle, called an epicycle, the center of which itself moved along a larger circle around the Earth. This complex double motion, when calculated correctly, produces the observed backward loops in a planet's path. Building this in metal means creating a gear within a gear, a delicate assembly where one gear rotates on an arm that is itself being carried around by a larger central gear. The mathematical ratios for these gears had to be precise, derived from centuries of Babylonian and Greek astronomical observations. The period of Saturn, for instance, is roughly 29.5 years, while Jupiter's is nearly 12. The gear train connecting them had to reflect this exact relationship. When a team of historians and engineers finally built a working model based on this principle, the result was a quiet miracle. With a slow turn of the crank, the tiny bronze moon began its circuit, the sun disk advanced, and Mars, with a subtle, deliberate hesitation, began its slow backward track against the backdrop of fixed stars. This was not a child's toy. It was a cosmic calculator, a physical demonstration of the most advanced scientific theory of its age. It proved that Hellenistic thinkers did not just observe the sky. They sought to capture its very logic in a box of whirring gears and spinning arms, a fusion of scientific theory and mechanical art that stands as one of humanity's most profound attempts to hold the universe in our hands. This drive to replicate the world in miniature, to automate the grand motions of the cosmos, would inevitably turn inward toward the most complex system of all, the human form itself. The same mathematical precision that mapped the cosmos was channeled into pure, breathtaking spectacle. While philosophers contemplated the stars, engineers like Hero of Alexandria were building machines that seemed to possess a life of their own. He left behind blueprints for automata, intricate devices powered by nothing more than gravity, steam, and cleverly trapped air. Picture the doors of a great temple swinging open as if by an unseen hand, triggered when a priest lit a sacred fire. The heat expanded the air in a sealed altar, forcing water through a siphon into a bucket. The bucket's growing weight, in turn, pulled on ropes that turned axles, smoothly pivoting the heavy doors on their bronze hinges. For a worshipper, it was a miracle. For the engineer, it was a lesson in physics, a theatrical application of thermal expansion and hydraulics. Hero's texts also describe entire miniature theaters, where automated plays unfolded through a complex system of weights, strings, and winding drums. A tiny wooden Hercules could draw his bow, a group of figures could dance in a circle, and a mechanical bird could suddenly burst into song, its sound produced by air forced through a whistle. Reconstructing these devices today is a delightful puzzle. The blueprints are remarkably detailed, yet they leave just enough unsaid to challenge a modern builder. You must figure out the exact counterweight needed to make a puppet move with a convincing, lifelike speed, or the precise angle for a water jet to spin a wheel without stalling. When these reconstructions succeed, the effect is magical. The whir of hidden gears gives way to a sudden, unexpected motion, and a 2,000-year-old piece of carved wood seems to wake up. This was engineering in the service of wonder. These automata were not built to grind grain or measure roads. Their purpose was to inspire awe, to blur the line between the inert and the animate, and to demonstrate a human mastery over the hidden forces of nature. This theatrical impulse to command attention through mechanical marvels was not confined to temple sanctuaries. It found a powerful parallel in the grand, public displays of royal power, where the engineering of awe became a tool of politics. The taker of cities did not roll quietly into battle. It was a fortress on wheels, a screeching, groaning mountain of timber and iron that inched its way toward defiant walls. The Roman siege tower, known by the terrifying Greek name Helepolis, was less a machine and more a mobile piece of landscape, engineered for a single, brutal purpose. Its blueprints survive not in a single scroll, but are pieced together from the writings of engineers like Vitruvius and the spiraling stone narrative of Trajan's Column, where Roman legionaries are shown swarming up its internal ramps. To reconstruct such a colossus is to confront a cascade of engineering nightmares. How do you keep a structure 9 stories tall from collapsing under its own weight as it lumbers across a battlefield littered with rubble and trenches? The answer lies in a skeleton of massive timber beams, triangulated and cross-braced to resist the deadly forces of torsion and shear. Each wheel, taller than a man, had to be mounted on its own axle, a system that allowed the entire behemoth to pivot and navigate uneven ground without snapping its spine. Then comes the problem of propulsion. Hidden within the tower's armored lower levels, teams of men would turn massive capstans, their labor transferred through a crude but effective gear train to the wheels, moving the entire structure with the agonizing slowness of a tectonic shift. The final assault relied on its own mechanical marvel. A heavy drawbridge, counterweighted for a swift, controlled drop, would slam down onto the enemy's battlements, creating a sudden, terrifying bridge for the legionaries waiting inside. Building a full-scale, functional replica of a Helepolis is one of the most ambitious feats of experimental archaeology ever attempted. It requires sourcing ancient species of timber, forging iron fittings using Roman methods, and coordinating a small army of modern volunteers to act as the muscle for the capstans. The moment the tower first creaks into motion is a revelation. You feel its immense weight in the groaning of the wood and the strain on the ropes. You understand the deafening noise it must have made, a psychological weapon in itself. This was not just a weapon, it was a logistical statement. It represented the Roman capacity to project industrial-scale engineering onto any battlefield, to literally bring the factory to the front lines. Its construction was the dark twin of bridge building or road making, a perversion of civic engineering for the sole purpose of breaking down what others had built. This terrifying application of genius forces a difficult question. Can the same mind that designs a machine to preserve life and order so effortlessly pivot to creating a machine designed solely for its destruction? From this pinnacle of ancient warfare, we find our perspective shifting from the machines that ended lives to those that were designed to save them. A surgeon's kit, buried for centuries under volcanic ash, holds its own kind of blueprint. The scalpels, forceps, and catheters unearthed from places like Pompeii are not just artifacts, they are the direct physical instructions for their own use. Each polished bronze and iron tool was shaped for a specific, delicate task, a testament to a level of medical sophistication that can be difficult to grasp. When modern experts recreate these instruments using Roman metalsmithing methods, the process itself becomes a form of diagnosis. They learn that a Roman scalpel was not a single piece of metal. It was a modular system with a reusable, ergonomic handle and a range of interchangeable steel blades, each with a different shape for a different type of incision. Some were slender and pointed for precision work, while others were curved for sweeping cuts. The value of this reconstruction only becomes clear when the tools are placed in a skilled hand. Using accurate replicas on anatomical models, surgeons have discovered the hidden logic in these ancient designs. A particular Roman bone lever, for instance, fits perfectly into the groove of a femur to lift a fractured bone into alignment without causing further damage. A pair of forceps with its finely serrated jaws provides just the right grip to extract a deeply embedded arrowhead. This is not crude guesswork. It is applied engineering. The form of each tool reveals a profound understanding of human anatomy and biomechanics. How did Roman surgeons achieve such precision without the benefit of modern imaging? They learned from the gladiators. These doctors worked in the empire's amphitheaters, treating horrific wounds in real time. This gruesome apprenticeship gave them an unparalleled, hands-on knowledge of the living body's interior, knowledge they then translated into exquisitely crafted metal. These were not mere implements, they were carefully balanced extensions of the surgeon's own intention, designed to minimize patient trauma and maximize the chance of recovery. They represent a technology dedicated not to conquest or spectacle, but to the most human of all endeavors, the alleviation of suffering. This focus on repairing and enhancing the human body would inevitably lead to machines that sought to transcend its natural limits altogether. Even a perfectly reconstructed machine cannot whisper its original purpose. This is the silent frontier of our work, where the most meticulous engineering meets unavoidable uncertainty. We can assemble every gear, pour the exact bronze alloy, and make the wheels spin, but we can never truly know the mind of the person who first designed it. The gaps in our blueprints are not just empty spaces on a diagram. They are chasms of lost context filled with our own modern assumptions. An object we confidently label as a scientific calculator, based on its intricate gear ratios, might have been housed in a temple and used by a priest for divination. Its primary success might not have been its mathematical accuracy, but its ability to inspire awe and reinforce a spiritual worldview. Our drive to see ancient technology through the lens of progress and efficiency can blind us to these alternative realities. The true function of a device could have been entirely symbolic, its mechanical motion serving a ritual purpose that left no written manual. This is why every reconstruction is, by its very nature, provisional. It is our best current hypothesis given to us in a physical form, a three-dimensional argument that is always waiting for a new fragment of pottery, a newly deciphered word in a scroll, or a fresh perspective to prove it wrong. The moment we believe our model is the definitive truth is the moment we stop listening to the past. This necessary humility is not a mark of failure. It is the very heart of the process, a constant reminder that we are interpreters weaving a narrative from scattered clues, not omniscient revivers of a dead world. This embrace of the unknown, of educated guesses that might one day be overturned, is what truly prepares us to venture into the most tantalizing and speculative of all reconstructions. A simple clay pot from ancient Iraq holds a secret that divides historians. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this unassuming artifact is a ceramic jar, inside of which sits a rolled copper sheet and an iron rod, all sealed together with an asphalt stopper. Found in the ruins of a Parthian or Sasanian village and dated to roughly 2,000 years ago, its components are hauntingly familiar to any modern electrical engineer. Copper and iron, separated by an electrolyte, form the basic recipe for a galvanic cell. When reconstructors fill the jar with a mild acidic substance like vinegar or grape juice, the chemical reaction begins. A small but measurable electrical voltage appears between the two metals, just enough to produce a faint tingle on the tongue or to be registered by a sensitive meter. This is where the mystery ignites. The device undeniably functions as a primitive battery, but its original purpose is utterly lost to time. What could this tiny 1-volt current have been used for? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, the process of using electricity to deposit a thin layer of one metal, like gold, onto the surface of another, like silver. Artisans of the period were masters of gilding, and perhaps this gentle current was the secret behind some of their most dazzling work. Another, more speculative idea points toward religious or medical experience. Could the faint shock have been used by priests to produce a mysterious sensation during a ritual, a tangible sign of divine presence? Or was it a primitive therapeutic device, an attempt to soothe aching muscles with a novel form of energy? The frustrating and beautiful truth is that we may never know. No wires have been found, no other components that would complete an electrical circuit. The Baghdad battery sits in a profound silence, a working device without a manual, a solution in search of a problem. Its reconstruction forces a profound question. If this single, strange pot can upturn our assumptions, what other mundane artifacts from the ancient world are we misinterpreting? How many other simple jars or unassuming lumps of metal are actually the dormant hearts of forgotten technologies, waiting only for us to ask the right question to make them speak again? A corroded gear can now be scanned with a laser, its every contour captured in a perfect digital twin. This is the new frontier of reconstruction, where modern technology acts as a powerful magnifying glass on the past. Three-dimensional scanning allows us to create precise models of fragile artifacts without ever touching them, preserving the original while giving us unlimited freedom to experiment. Once a digital model exists, the true testing begins inside a computer. Engineers can run simulations that would be impossible or dangerously expensive in the real world. They can apply immense forces to a virtual gear train to see where it would fail, or model the complex flow of water through a Roman aqueduct to understand its true capacity. This virtual workshop lets us fail safely and learn quickly, eliminating countless dead ends before a single piece of wood is cut or a single bronze ingot is melted. Perhaps the most revolutionary tool is the computed tomography scan, the same technology used in hospitals. For the Antikythera Mechanism, CT scanning was like being granted X-ray vision. It peered through layers of centuries-old corrosion to map the intricate gear trains hidden inside, revealing inscriptions and tooth counts that were completely invisible to the naked eye. This is not a shortcut that bypasses the hard work of historical understanding. It is a new form of evidence, a way of listening more closely to the faint whispers of the past. These tools allow us to ask questions we could never have posed before. What was the precise angle of a gear tooth, and how did that affect the machine's accuracy? Could this assembly of parts have withstood the operational stresses? By testing these hypotheses in the digital realm, we arrive at the physical reconstruction with a deeper, more confident understanding. The synergy between the silicon chip and the bronze gear is pushing the boundaries of experimental archaeology, enabling us to resurrect machines of a complexity we once thought was forever lost to time. The steady drip of water marked the hours long before the tick of a clock. In the bustling intellectual capital of Alexandria, the engineer Ctesibius confronted a fundamental flaw in the water clocks of his era. A simple clepsydra was just a bowl with a hole, but as its water level fell, the pressure dropped and the flow slowed, making the final hours of the day drag on interminably. Ctesibius saw this irregularity not as an inevitability, but as a problem to be solved with elegant physics. His blueprint was for a regulator, a device that would maintain a constant head of pressure no matter how much water remained in the main tank. He achieved this with a third tank, an overflow reservoir that kept the water in the supply chamber at a perfectly steady level. From this regulated stream, water dripped into the heart of the machine, a chamber containing a float. As the water rose, so too did the float, and this smooth, vertical motion was the machine's steady heartbeat. But how do you translate the rise of water into the turn of a hand on a dial? This was his second stroke of genius. Ctesibius connected the float to a rack and pinion, a simple gear that transformed linear motion into a rotation. As the float ascended, it turned a gear train, which in turn moved a pointer across a circular scale, perhaps even triggering bells or moving figurines on the hour. Building a reconstruction today means wrestling with the same challenges Ctesibius faced. The regulating tank must be precisely calibrated, the float must move without friction, and the gear ratios must be calculated so that the pointer completes one full circuit in exactly 24 hours. When all these elements align, the result is a quiet marvel. The water flows with a gentle, constant trickle, the float rises with imperceptible steadiness, and the hand on the dial advances with a reliability that feels almost magical. This was not a machine for tracking the stars, but for structuring human activity. It regimented the day in the law courts, the marketplace, and the public square, imposing a new, mechanical order on civic life. The clepsydra represents a pivotal shift in our relationship with nature, a move from observing celestial time to creating and controlling a man-made version of it. This meticulous pursuit of measured, reliable power in a timepiece finds a stark and violent contrast in the next great machine, where the goal was not to mark time, but to unleash raw, unmeasured force in an instant. The same principles that gave rise to a steady water clock could be twisted into something far more destructive. On the decks of Byzantine warships, a bronze tube hissed with a contained fury, a device designed not to measure time but to unleash instant liquid hell. This was the projector for Greek fire, a weapon so potent its exact recipe was a state secret that died with the empire. We will never know the precise cocktail of naphtha, sulfur, and quicklime that created a fire that water could not quench, a substance that clung to wood and flesh and burned even on the waves. Yet the delivery system itself presents a separate, terrifying puzzle of engineering. Ancient accounts describe a bronze tube, a siphon, manned by a crew who pumped a mysterious liquid from a sealed reservoir. The machine had to be more than a simple pump. To create a continuous stream of liquid flame, it likely used a twin-piston force pump, a device the Romans perfected for fighting fires, now perverted into a weapon of war. The operator would work a hand-operated lever back and forth, creating a constant pressure that forced the thick, sticky fuel along a bronze tube. But the most critical part of the device was its nozzle. Some historians argue it must have been heated, perhaps by a small brazier burning beside it. A preheated nozzle would instantly vaporize the flammable mixture the moment it was exposed to air, creating a spray that could be ignited by a torch, turning it into a roaring jet of fire the moment it left the tube. Reconstructing this is a dangerous dance with fluid mechanics and metallurgy. You must calculate the pressure needed to project the stream a credible distance, the bore of the tube to control the flow, and the type of bronze that can withstand repeated thermal shock without cracking. Teams attempting this have built replicas based on these principles, and the results are chilling. When the pump is engaged, the fuel does not dribble out. It erupts in a focused, vaporizing mist that, when touched by a flame, transforms into a roaring plume that arcs across the water. The heat is immense, the roar deafening. This was not a catapult launching a single projectile. It was a continuous, directional flamethrower, a weapon of area denial that could set an entire enemy fleet ablaze. Its successful reconstruction reveals a profound technological synthesis. It was not enough to have the chemical knowledge to create the incendiary mixture. That knowledge was useless without the mechanical genius to project it, to build a machine that could reliably and safely, for the user, turn a secret formula into a tactical reality on the choppy sea. This machine stands as a stark monument to a terrifying truth, that the drive for understanding the world is forever shadowed by the capacity to turn that understanding into a tool of pure, calculated annihilation. Rebuilding a machine of war forces a difficult confrontation with history. That same brilliant engineering mind that designed a precise water clock could, with chilling ease, turn its principles toward a projector for liquid fire. The ethical dimension of this work is inescapable. Are we, in our meticulous reconstructions, inadvertently glorifying instruments of pure destruction? For the vast majority of historians and engineers involved, the answer is a resolute no. Their focus is not on celebration, but on comprehension. They seek to understand the complete picture of ancient technological capability, a picture that includes both the aqueduct that sustained life and the siege tower that ended it. To ignore the machines of war is to whitewash history, to present a sanitized version of the past where genius was only applied to peaceful ends. The real world was never so simple. The goal is to grasp the full spectrum of human ingenuity, acknowledging that our capacity for creation is forever shadowed by our capacity for annihilation. This reflective process is itself a form of modern progress. The terrifying military secrets of empires, once guarded on pain of death, are now subjects of open, international academic inquiry. A team in Germany might share its analysis of Roman ballistics with a researcher in Japan, who contributes insights from ancient Chinese metallurgy. This collaborative spirit transforms what were once tools of conquest into bridges for shared global understanding. The act of rebuilding a Greek fire projector becomes not an endorsement of its violence, but a profound lesson in the dual-use nature of all technology, a timeless reminder that knowledge itself is neutral, and its moral weight depends entirely on the hands that wield it. This thoughtful framework, balancing fascination with responsibility, provides the essential compass for the final and most speculative frontier of this entire endeavor. The future of ancient machine reconstruction is being rewritten in virtual workshops and global laboratories. This is no longer a solitary pursuit for a historian in a library or an engineer in a garage. The most exciting breakthroughs are now happening at the intersections of disciplines, where a materials scientist analyzing the crystal structure of a bronze fragment can provide the missing clue that allows a computer modeler to simulate the exact stress on a gear tooth. These collaborations are creating a new kind of dialogue with the past, one that is richer and more nuanced than ever before. Soon, you might not just read about Hero's Automata. You could step into a digital reconstruction of the great library of Alexandria through augmented reality, reach out with a virtual hand and set a bronze sphere spinning with steam. This immersive experience would transform a theoretical concept into a visceral understanding of scale, sound, and motion, revealing nuances that a static diagram could never convey. This global perspective is also expanding beyond the traditional focus on Greco-Roman and European technologies. There is a burgeoning drive to reconstruct the sophisticated blast furnaces of sub-Saharan Africa, which produced high-carbon steel centuries before the Industrial Revolution, or to understand the complex rope-based machinery implied by the construction of Mesoamerican pyramids. These are not lesser technologies. They are different branches of the same human drive to solve problems with ingenuity and the materials at hand. The ultimate goal is no longer to simply prove that a single device could work. It is to weave all these threads into a more complete and inclusive tapestry of global innovation. Every new reconstruction, whether it is a Chinese seismometer or an Indian perpetual oil lamp, adds another vital piece to this grand puzzle. The sands of time and the soils of every continent still hold countless secrets. The blueprints we have painstakingly gathered so far are merely the prelude to a much larger story waiting to be told. This forward-looking journey from a single corroded gear to a collaborative, worldwide effort circles back to a single, profound principle that unites every attempt to resurrect these mechanical ghosts. Every fragment we uncover is a question posed to us across the centuries. Reconstructing these ancient machines is, at its core, the ultimate exercise in reverse engineering. We are given the scattered pieces of a solution and must work backwards to deduce the original problem. A cryptic line of poetry, the microscopic wear pattern on a bronze gear, the ghostly impression of a wooden frame in hardened earth, these are our starting points. We begin with these clues and embark on a journey to understand the designer's intent, to figure out not just how a machine was assembled, but why it was built that particular way. This is not a one-way lecture from the past. It is a vibrant, challenging dialogue. We ask a question by proposing a hypothesis, by building a physical model based on our best guess. The machine itself then answers. It might spin to life with a satisfying whir confirming our theory. More often, it grinds to a halt, its gears jamming or its structure groaning under a stress we failed to anticipate. This is where we learn humility. Our modern assumptions about efficiency and purpose are frequently proven wrong, forcing us to shed our contemporary lens and see the world through the eyes of the original creator. This repeated cycle of proposal and physical response fosters a profound and growing respect. We are not resurrecting primitive gadgets. We are engaging with the work of brilliant, creative minds who solved monumental problems with the materials and knowledge available to them. The intricate gearing of the Antikythera Mechanism and the simple, elegant spin of Hero's Aeolipile, though separated by purpose, are united by this same process of discovery. They are both monuments to a universal human ingenuity, and each successful reconstruction is a tribute to that enduring spark. Our journey through these blueprints from the sands reveals a world far removed from the primitive past we so often imagine. We have encountered cosmic calculators, self-spinning spheres, and automated theaters, a landscape of astonishing mechanical sophistication where the line between myth and machinery continually blurs. The ancients were not merely laying foundations, they were pioneers soaring to intellectual heights that would not be reached again for over 1,000 years. Their knowledge, however, was fragile, scattered by the winds of time, war, and the slow decay of parchment and memory. Rebuilding their machines is therefore far more than an academic exercise in historical reenactment. It is a profound act of reconnection, a way to touch our shared technological heritage and to appreciate the timeless, universal nature of human curiosity. The same drive that led a Greek engineer to ponder steam power is the very same spark that fuels our exploration of space and our quest for artificial intelligence. It is a legacy of problem-solving written not just in scrolls, but in the very logic of gears and levers. So the next time you hold a modern smartphone or gaze at a complex modern gadget, remember that the spark of invention has been glowing for millennia, passed down from the hands of those ancient masters who first dared to capture the cosmos in bronze and give motion to their dreams. If this exploration of ancient genius has captivated you, please subscribe for more journeys into history's greatest mysteries. We would love to hear which of these incredible machines you find most compelling, so share your thoughts in the comments below.